G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. I'm sure you've heard the saying that into every life a little rain must fall. And you've probably noticed that some people are not content to let the water fall down out of the sky from heaven. Some people are so determined to get wet they have to piss all over themselves. What am I referring to here? Well, I'm referring to the fact that Barnaby Joyce, a backbencher from the National Party in the Australian coalition government, who used to be until recently the leader of the National Party, who used to be until recently the Deputy Prime Minister, who was forced to give up his position because of his multiple sexual peccadillos coming to light. Specifically, the fact that back in 2016, in time for the election, he got a new press secretary and he started an affair with the press secretary. And 6 months later, the affair was so obnoxious to everybody in his office that they forced him to move her on. So she went from $131,000 a year in Barnaby's office to Tim Canavan's office. And when she went to Tim Canavan's office, she got $138,000 a year. And then Tim Canavan turned out to be a secret Italian. So Vicky Campion got shifted to Damien Drum's office. She kept the pay rise. Whoever it was that took over Tim Canavan's office did not replace Barnaby's ex-press secretary. And Barnaby fought the by-election in New England and he kept it as quiet as possible, and virtually nobody who voted for him had any idea that A, he'd had a girlfriend, or B, that his wife had kicked him out, or C, that his girlfriend was pregnant, or D, that he'd moved in with the girlfriend in Canberra. So he won the by-election, and on the 7th of December 2017, Barnaby Joyce told Parliament that he'd separated from his wife and established a new address. And that was all supposed to be above board. And it sort of kind of remained so because Natalie had said nothing until there was some confirmation. The news organisations could not print anything. And then, because she used to work at the Sydney Telegraph, the Sydney Telegraph staff and photographers knew what Vicky Campion looked like, so they photographed her, pregnant, looking like a, well, not quite a beached whale or a hippopotamus in drag, but she was looking pretty frumpy and pretty unhappy. And then the shit sort of hit the fan because Barnaby's wife came out and said that she didn't know he was having an affair for months and months and months. And when she found out, she kicked him out. And Barnaby claimed that it was his private personal matter and nobody should pay any attention to it. And how dare anybody pry into his personal life? But the problem is, for 15 years, he's campaigned on a platform of being a moral majority, conservative, right-wing, Christian Catholic family values candidate. So on that grounds alone, yeah, it was very much big time a matter of public interest because it goes to his judgment and that goes to his character. And, you know, anybody who thinks it's okay to kill the Murray-Darling Basin water allocation plan because it irritates his irrigation mates has poor judgment, same kind of poor judgment as the sort of dickhead who shags their painted secretary. Okay, so finally and eventually, when allegations rose from a Western Australian National Party member that he had sexually harassed them and sexually misconducted himself, that was too much for him. The Prime Minister told him that the skullduggery that went on with getting his girlfriend the new job, that was being investigated, and the Prime Minister dumped a bucket of excoriation onto Barnaby's head publicly in a press conference. And Barnaby whinged for a couple of days, and when it was made clear to him that there is no comeback from this, mate, you have to resign, otherwise you've killed the National Party and possibly killed the coalition too, Barnaby resigned. Okay, well, everybody thought that was an old forgotten story and Barnaby would shut his bloody mouth and sit quietly. No, not a bit of it. On today's 2 o'clock news, and today is the 4th of March 2018, it announced that Nick Xenophon had counselled Barnaby Joyce to shut up, because Barnaby Joyce this morning went on television to announce that he doesn't even know if Vicky Campion is carrying his biological baby. Right, so either he's completely fucking crazy or he's trying to dump his girlfriend. Maybe he thinks Natalie will take him back. Ha ha, good luck with that one, mate. Not after the shit and humiliation you've put her through. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the National Party does not expel him from the party simply for the amount of damage that he's doing to their party brand. The fact that they just spent weeks, months, years telling everybody what a great Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby was, what a great party leader he was, because he's the best retail politician that they had in the whole party. And this is what he gets up to. He pisses all over himself in a public place, multiple times. Barnaby's karma has not yet finished kicking his ass, and it probably won't finish kicking his ass until his nose bleeds. At least, that's my guess.
Gemma Wells with ABC News. Australia remains in the dark about how the United States is a distraction. Mr. Joyce has given an interview to Fairfax, revealing he's unsure if he is the biological father of his partner Vicky Campion's unborn baby. Senator Abetz says it's untidy to comment on people's private lives.
These things, when people want to talk about these sort of private life matters, it does distract from the game of looking after the people of Australia's needs.
Researchers say Australia is leading the way.
Okay, well, that was Eric Abetz. In the previous bulletin, I think it was Nick Xenophon who told him to just shut up. So, just picture this. Barnaby Joyce is on the backbench. His wife's kicked him out. His daughters don't like him to the point where they were driving around Tamworth in his campaign vehicle telling people not to vote for him because he was a sleazy two-timer. And he's on the backbench with his ex-mate, Tony Abbott, used to be Prime Minister. Barnaby Joyce used to be Deputy Prime Minister. I'm pretty sure there was an event that happened when Tony Abbott had left the Catholic seminary where he was in training for the priesthood, and he was living in a flat, and it was the sort of flat where hot bedding sort of went on a fair bit. And one night, he had a spontaneous sexual liaison with one of his flatmates, and the flatmate became pregnant. And for 35 years, poor little Tony Abbott lived with the impression that he had an illegitimate child. And that went on right up until the story broke, and one of the newspapers put pictures of Tony Abbott's alleged love child out into the public domain. And when that happened, either it was a different flatmate, or perhaps, just perhaps, it was a visitor who was in the house on the night, stepped forward and said, hey, actually, that there kid looks exactly like me, and at that particular time, I also had a liaison with that woman. So Tony Abbott made himself feel like a piece of shit for 35 years, and then he made himself look like an idiot when it turned out that he was flagellating himself for somebody else's biological child. And now Barnaby thinks that his girlfriend was cheating on him, presumably while he was running around trying to get himself re-elected. They must be having a really, really, really good fun time sitting on the back bench up there. I wonder how long it'll be before Barnaby decides to invoke his 4 years of Australian Army Reserve training to get together with Tony Abbott and stage a coup and take this country over and put it back to rights. But personally, I think the National Party will just shit-can him. They'll tell him if he wants to sit on the crossbenches, he's welcome to do that, but I don't think they're going to want him in their party because he's doing too much damage to the brand. Too many women who have voted National and too many women who have voted Liberal are just walking away from the idea of supporting a lowhound. You know, it's a Scottish word. It means a man who has no more sexual control than a puppy dog. He's doomed to go sniffing around the tail of any bitch he thinks might be on heat. And yeah, Barnaby Joyce the Lowhound, he's just pissed all over himself again. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. I never would have believed it, but it was on the radio, so I have to. Ciao.